Hey, I'm Lex,
And I'm Gibby.
and welcome to another episode of Porch Swing People.
As you know, each week we bring on a guest to tell their story about their past, their present, and their future aspirations.
Yeah, you know what's really cool about our podcast, if I can say, is just the number of questions that we have and the variety in what people choose to bring onto the podcast. And it's fun to see which ones are chosen that are like, wow, no one's chosen that before, or which questions get a lot of airtime, you know?
Yeah. Yep. And there's a little bit of both.
Are there any questions that our guest today has chosen that you are particularly excited about?
He has a question about something big or small that he learned from his parents or grandparents.
Mhm.
I I had a wonderful childhood in my opinion, and parents were a huge part of it. And I'm interested in hearing how that one goes.
Yeah, that's a good one. For me, I love seeing our second question here. What is a piece of beauty you notice in your everyday surroundings? Because that is something that I focus on intentionally, and I'm trying to teach my kids to do the same. So I love hearing what people share in their daily lives. And that's always something that I look forward to. Can you tell us a little about who our guest is today?
Yes, I'm actually quite excited about our guest today. His name is Carl. I've known him since 2000. If somebody asked me, "Hey, tell me a couple of persons that would be your mentors," I have three of them that would pop into my mind immediately, and Carl is one of them. He has
Very cool.
vast experience on a lot of different levels. I can't wait for everyone to hear his story.
Well, should we bring him on?
Copy that. What's going on, Mountain Man?
What's this young man stuff?
I said, Mountain Man. There ain't nothing young about you or
Oh,
me.
yes, that's true. That's true.
You
Hi,
look
Carl.
wonderful.
Hi, Miss Lexi. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Just one of those great days. I haven't seen you since you were just little and I didn't have a beard.
All right. So thank you for joining us. Is this the first time on a podcast?
It's my first time on a podcast.
So a couple of the logistics. As we're going along, if you don't like the way it was worded, or you worded it, or you want to stop, just pause for a second and then start again. That will give Lex a heads up of how or where to edit your spot.
What you're explaining to me is that if I mess up, pause, start rolling, and she'll know where to edit my It's almost like I've been an actor a little bit.
Have you been an actor, Carl?
Well, when I got laid off, the only guys that would hire me was a casting agent from Salt Lake. So I've been a hair model. I've been in commercials. There's a feature film out there on Prime Video that you can rent. It's called Guilt, made by Tom Proctor. And I play the old detective.
No way.
And then some of the Old Testament, New Testament. I've been on the Chosen, mostly in season 2 is where I'm most recognizable. And this is in case they need me for season 7 on the final season of the Chosen.
That's
as an
awesome.
old guy.
I'm going to be looking it up.
I sort of look like Old Testament, don't I?
You've got the Old Testament look. And we know you also have the wisdom
amazing.
for it. So
I just googled Guilt Tom Proctor cast, and there's Carl
George?
name. It's crazy. Look, you're famous.
Infamous, maybe, but not. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, thank you for that question. I'm an old man. I can't say mature. I'm closer to 100 than I am to 50, and I've had a full life, a lot of ups and downs. My first job, I was a sheep herder out on the mountains of Utah. Spent most of my summers on a horse out chasing the mountains, and my dad died when I was 13. I came off the mountain 2 days before I turned 13, and then my dad died later on. And I went to a parochial school for a couple of years where I met most of my oldest friends and my wife. And then I spent some time in Salt Lake and went back to Oregon to graduate from high school. Came back, joined the Army. Of course, I learned a lot in the Army, but my recruiters lied to me. So I planned to be a rancher. That didn't pan out. So I ended up going back to my Army roots and spent another 30 years as a tester trying to make sure the equipment and procedures that we were using, um, in fact, did not kill the people we were trying to support and actually was a benefit to them. I had the opportunity to go to Europe for 4 years. I took a sabbatical from the Army and went to work for the Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, where even though I couldn't spell it, we were considered a diplomat at the time. And that was probably the best job that I've ever had as far as feeling worthwhile. Then I came back to Dugway and met Gibby, and you know the rest of that story.
For all those recruiters out there, I don't know if they lie, but they embellish the truth.
They were trying to fill the barrels for a conflict at that time, and they were doing everything that they could to get people.
Oh, yeah.
We were still doing the draft, so not very many of us actually joined.
I got it. Yeah. Rough era. Hey, so you mentioned you at 12 and 13, you were a sheep herder.
Before that, but that was when I came off the last. Yeah, but I spent summers from the time I was about 9 up with the sheep camp.
Wow.
Did you guys live in one of those little sheep? What is the wagons?
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen these things, Lex. They're very interesting. They're like a little dome-like thing on wheels, old, rickety. And I mean, do they have heaters and stuff like that in them? Correct?
Oh, now they've got televisions and they've got battery power.
Yeah.
We had wood stoves, and the second bed slipped back underneath the first bed, so you had to make sure that the dishes were done and the plates were put away, because that table then became the support for the second bed where I slept.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a second wagon. The closest that you can get, if you haven't ever been out in the West to see the sheep wagons across the desert as they were 50 years ago or 100 years ago, actually.
Yeah. Not very glamorous.
No.
Yeah.
But
bare bones. Yeah.
You needed a place to cook. You needed a place to sleep, and you needed a place to get away from the dogs when you needed to get away from the dogs. You came out the door, you gathered the dogs, you saddled the horse, and you went out on your job. Everything was outside.
I'm just amazed by how many different chapters of your life there are and how vastly different they are from each other.
And he paraphrased it in about a minute and a half.
That's incredible. So speaking of this time as a child being a sheep herder, tell us a moment from your childhood that still brings you joy.
And that's the biggest one right there, is that in the summer of 1962, I was able to go up to camp early, and we had the lower camp. And then my mother brought my younger brother, my little sister, and our animal menagerie up to the camp. And about that time, the camp jack showed up with the horses, and we loaded up our sheep camp and our animal menagerie, and loaded up onto the horses and went up to the top camp, which was right at the base of the large cliffs on the White Mountain. If you've ever driven I-70 going from Salina up over the top, and look to the north, there's a big white face up there. Well, in the summer of 62, I was up there in a tent camp with my family. Wow. And there was a pigeon that my brother and I had rescued, My cousin had shot with a BB across the head, and we brought it back and nursed it to health. We had a Siamese cat. We had a Chihuahua. We had the sheepdogs, plus the horses back on this horse train going up to the top sheep camp. And my brother and my sister and I were all on one horse at the same time. I had just, let's see, I turned 12 on that. So I was 11 when I went up. I turned 12. And so I was 12. My younger brother was, I think he was 10 at that time. And my sister was about 5 or 6. And we're all up on this horse trying to ride the top and holding the Chihuahua. My mother was holding the bird cage. And it's fine, except, there's not a whole lot for 3 people to hold on to. So as the horse started to trot a little bit, and basically sister starts to slip over, and my brother starts to slip over, and then pretty quick,
oh no, everybody killed.
And that's one of my sister's first memories, is that one where we all landed on top of her and dust herself off and had to go over to a stump so that we could get back on the horse.
Yeah.
And that's basically that family memory where we're all together at one time, and then up in tent camp and cutting pine boughs off the trees to throw over in the corner of the tent, and then put the canvas over the top of it, and that was our bed. Mom and Dad had a cot. They had a tiny wood stove that would heat up on the top so you could fry stuff, and it was hot enough. Had a little box on the side so you could bake your biscuits, and had a stream running outside. Back in the days when you could actually go out and drink water from our streams in Utah. We didn't have Giardia everywhere. Different times. Simple pleasures.
Wild time. I have a couple questions off of it. How many sheep did you run?
Oh, Dad lost most of his stuff. He sold the stuff when I was born, but when he started having medical issues, and basically the only job he could get was back as he was a livestockman. He was a good sheep herder. He ran there were 3,000 in the band that we had.
Wow. No
kidding. So it was a summertime band where you had about 3,000 with hours. And then for the wintertime, they would put them back together, so you'd have about 10,000 in a bunch. Out on the West Desert. Up on.
Do you recall experiencing any of the cattle sheep wars? Was that a thing that you guys experienced?
They all talked about it, and the owners would all say that, these guys were miserable. Dad had a way of herding so that he would run the sheep and make sure that he knew where they were going to stop, and then he would get them up and he would run them again. So that in about 2 weeks, he'd take them back, and the range was better when he got back than it was when he first grazed it. And the cowboys that were over the top of the hill would come over to our sheep camp because we were the best cooks. Made the best sourdough biscuits, and they would eat our mutton rather than their beef that they cooked.
No kidding.
So that's so the sheep herders and cowboys got along pretty well together. Just that when they started looking at the ranges, and they tried to maintain that. But yeah, I was a range maggot herder, you might say.
Very cool.
But individually, we got along well.
So back to then your original question, those memories, the core memories of brother and sister, younger brother and sister in the family, that's it, huh? Brings you joy thinking back.
Yep. Simpler time.
Way simpler.
And up there on that, by that mountain, we didn't even get a transistor radio signal.
We say simpler, certainly challenging in that lifestyle. Back to the no transistor radio thing. But what a cool upbringing, and a challenging one at the same time.
It was a job. We worked all summer and thought it was play. How many people consider that, you get paid to go out there and throw a saddle on a horse, even if you're little enough that you have to put the blanket on and then take the saddle, boost it up to the top of your head, and do a short hop and jump to throw it up to the back of the horse. But the horse was gentle enough to hold that.
That's cool.
Let us do
Yeah.
it.
What an amazing horse to keep all three of you on there. That is, I just have like this picture of the three kids plus their animals and everyone else just tromping along. That's incredible. Carl, can you tell us about a piece of beauty that you notice in your everyday surroundings nowadays?
Oh, I one of my biggest pleasures is to sit and look at a sunset or a sunrise. And if I can get out to the beach someplace and watch the sunrise or the sunset over the ocean, that's some of the things that I consider the most beautiful and the
Yeah.
most lasting. I consider, God paints a picture out there every morning. It's up to me. I should be out there watching it.
Yes, we should. It doesn't take much. You still have your sailboat?
I do.
Yeah, you get it out.
It's been a couple of years. We've had some health issues down this way, but we're to the point now where I think I'm going to be able to get it out this month.
All right.
That's super exciting.
Carl, tell us something that is going unexpectedly well for you these days.
I'm still alive.
Okay, I don't think that's unexpected, at least for me.
Well, for my family, they have an early age of mortality of the males. My dad died just before he turned 55.
Wow.
And I've got him beat for over 20 years now.
Nice. And our condolences back in the day.
Yeah, what I said, 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's 13.
Carl, tell us a little bit about how you view your time now. Like you said, being closer to 100, being unexpectedly alive, how you might view your daily life or the time that you have right now differently than maybe you did in the past.
I've always looked at each day as a gift for a long time. And basically that's what it is. I have a simple routine. I do a lot of cooking and I do a lot of cleaning around the house. And we don't get out much anymore. If the weather's right, we'll go out, we'll do a walk on the trail, or we'll go up to Snow Canyon or Zion. We just did a nice drive up into Zion to see if the water was flowing, and it wasn't. But with the leaves off the trees, Zion National Park is a whole different personality when you can see past the trees.
Yeah. Tell us something that you learned from your grandparents or your parents. It could be something big or small that has stayed with you throughout your life.
I had a grandmother. The other three of my grandparents were dead before I was born. My parents were late bloomers.
Mm-hmm.
And for mom and dad, they worked all the time. And some of the best time I had was when I had a chance to work alongside them. But it was one of those things where we basically worked. And I think that stayed through me and my kids. My kids understand that they need to be doing something. So if you don't have two jobs, then you're slacking off.
Yeah, I remember those days.
My grandmother tried to teach me a little bit of Danish. And that poem never did stick with me, but I do remember it was something about a rose. And she was she was the first of her family that was born in the Utah Territory. Her older brother, Carl, was born on the island of Lolland in Denmark. She was just a sweet, nice person to everyone. And I never heard her speak a bad word about anyone. So but that would be about the only thing that I could say that I learned from a grandmother. And most of the rest of the time, we were taking care of animals. We were out enjoying the outside while we were working. And yeah, there's not a whole bunch I can pass on besides grandmother always expected you to be honest with her. And she wouldn't tolerate somebody talking bad about somebody else in her house.
Those
Here's
are two good things. Yeah.
Yeah. I still actually have a grandmother kicking right now.
That's good.
Yeah.
Congratulations. But
Well,
I'm old
not my
enough to be your
accomplishment.
father.
I don't know if you're that old, but
Yeah.
yeah. But she's a force in my life, or in my upbringing when I was younger, and as was my grandfather.
Carl, thanks for sharing all of that. I feel like there are some great things to document. The sightseeing with your dad, the Danish poem from your grandma that has to do with a rose, even if you don't remember it. We appreciate you sharing that on the podcast today. Can you tell us about a simple joy that never gets old for you in our today times, I guess, in our present?
Just the feel of the wind across the sails when you pull out from the slip and you get out of the marina and you cut the motor and the sails are up and you're just cruising along with a proper set and Bernoulli pulling you along.
Very cool.
Yeah, I've never been sailing. How does one get into that?
Well, I wanted to do that when I was a kid. I used to draw longboats from my Norse heritage. I used to draw longboats with the sails, and you look at that and you say, I don't know how somebody could do something where you wait for the wind to push you along, and then you have to wait for the wind to push you back. And then
That's how I look at it too.
I'd given it up, and I was, always dream about flying, but then when I moved to Dugway, a guy that we worked with lived behind us, and he had a little sailboat, and I watched that sailboat for a while, and then they moved into Tooele, and he sold that sailboat and got a bigger sailboat, and he started talking to me and said, how'd you like to come crew on my boat? So I went out there with him one day, and my wife and I, and he told me about the sails, and he told me about the Bernoulli principle, low pressure and high pressure, of how that sail is pulled through the water. And I was hooked. So I sailed with him for about 4 years, mainly just in in the regattas. And we ended up buying a little trailer sailor because I didn't want to be stuck to one body of water.
Mm-hmm.
So we got this little trailer sailor in '94 and sailed it on the Great Salt Lake. And then we took it up and sailed it on a couple of reservoirs up in Oregon, put it on the Columbia, and played tacking back and forth with the current on the Columbia River, and then up on Puget Sound, and back down through reservoir in Idaho, and Fish Lake is a fantastic little place for boats and sails. So I've had it down on Mission Bay. We started having grandkids. We took the boat down to Mission Bay, and the grandkids joined us on. So yeah,
Wow.
I've enjoyed getting on a sailboat in lots of places.
Yeah, such freedom.
Any dicey times on the sail you're like, oh, that almost went awry?
Well, I on the Great Salt Lake is one of those things where thunderstorm can come up pretty good.
Yep, out of nowhere.
And yeah, you read about stuff and you read about stuff, and the guy that taught us how to sail said, Make sure you've got some wine corks on there, because if lightning strikes your mast, it's going to come out and it's going to go through your hull. So you have a bunch of corks on board just in case, so you can plug the holes.
Huh.
And my youngest son and my wife and I were out on the Great Salt Lake, and I could feel the hairs on my neck start to stand up.
Uh-oh.
You look around and here's a storm coming through, and well, I'm gonna dissipate as much as I can. So I threw the ladder over so it made a contact with the water, and I told my wife and son to get down below decks. And about that time, you could hear it start clicking. It get a little bit dark. You look down and you could see the static electricity sparking between my backstay and the ladder. And so I asked him to cut me a piece of wire and strip the both ends of it so I could work this, and took one end of it and put it around the ladder, and the other end I quickly stuck it over to the backstay, and it stopped clicking.
Wow.
Same thing happened when you're getting ready to sail up at Strawberry Reservoir. I don't know if you've ever fly fished up on Strawberry.
A lot of times. Yeah.
But I was in the parking lot, and I was getting ready and got the mast up and saw these clouds coming over. So I took my anchor out and I wrapped it around the backstay and threw this line out along the pavement and get ready to go inside and have a hamburger while I waited for the storm to pass. And had a dad with a couple of his kids walking by, and I said, "What are you doing?" So I explained it, and his kid asked me, "Can I touch it?" I looked at his dad and said, "It's up to you." So he grabbed it and jumped.
Uh-huh.
Can I do it again? It's still up to him. So yeah, you can get some interesting things, but we've always watched inland sailing. You can always get to the point where you can either throw an anchor down or you can reduce your sail,
Mm-hmm.
so that heavy winds aren't as bad as lightning is.
Yeah. Hey, Carl, tell us a message you would share with the entire world.
I was thinking about that. What I've found with the people of the world, I can't give any advice to the world, but what I've noticed when I've traveled around the world, either for pleasure or for work, I mean, I've worked from Japan and India and Russia and China and Italy, and people seem to be the same no matter where we are. We get along. Most people like other people. Doesn't matter where they're from, and we scare each other with the governments, but the people get along just fine. I found that some of the best conversations I had were in Russia and Japan and China, and then some of my colleagues that I got along with the best were Muslim. And you look at this, and most of the world wants peace. I'm not sure what we're doing with our governments, but most of the world wants peace. The people of the world want to live together peacefully. And that's, whether I'm vacationing in Australia or New Zealand or the Caribbean, working in China or Japan, the people just want to be themselves. We want to live together in peace and get along and respect each other's cultures.
Carl, I think that was a really well said statement. Very succinct, very true. Not trying to necessarily fix anything, but just put that sentiment out there that in our hearts, for the vast majority of us, we all know that what we want is to just live, and we want our neighbors to just live, and we just want peace. That's kind of a heavy statement, heavy ending to
I'm
That
it.
was
sorry.
no, no. I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
it's something that needs to be said. We're all
No,
pretty
don't be
much just the
sorry.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Carl. And thank you for everything that you brought onto the podcast today. I learned a lot. I loved the stories that you brought on from childhood. And I feel like maybe we needed to talk more about your acting career, but maybe next time.
Next time.
And I loved hearing about sailing too. That's all new to me. So I loved all of it. And we just really appreciate your time today.
But I appreciate you inviting me.
Well,
Thank
here's
you.
one thing, Lex, is it's never too late. The selling thing, maybe we should, next time I come up, we start figuring out how to
Do you
take
know
some
about
lessons.
sailing, Gibby?
I've gone a few times. I know enough to get us in trouble.
Okay. Well, I'll keep that in mind.
Okay. Carl, thank you very much for sitting with us on the porch today.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, and we'll chat soon. What a great time with Carl. Huh?
Yeah, it was, did I not tell you a great storyteller, just a facet of experiences, a lifetime of experiences.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm closer to 100 than I am 50 now, which is
I know, I love that catchphrase. That's oh my gosh, what a character. Speaking of being a character, did you know about his acting career?
no,
That was a
so I'm,
surprise.
yes, he might have mentioned it, a couple years ago.
Oh my goodness. If Carl is listening to this and you did mention it to Gibby multiple times and he forgot it,
No,
I will apologize on his
that
behalf.
did not happen multiple times, but I think a couple years ago I touched base with him out of the blue, and he had mentioned something about a little bit of acting, but he didn't. He certainly did not go into
Hey, I'm in a movie.
or in a series, and so I'm gonna have to look up both of them today, and because there's so
Very
much to
cool.
do here in my everyday trailer life.
Mm. I am fascinated by his unique upbringing.
I think unique is probably an understatement.
Yeah.
Obviously, 12 years old or younger, 9, 10, 11, you're on a horse and you're sheep herding. Not an easy life. And he kind of glossed over any of the hardships of that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, he described it as we worked all day, but we thought we were playing. I feel
yeah,
like sometimes we think of childhood as the opposite of that, where kids are playing all day, but they think they're working, as in they take their play so seriously. When you are in circumstances where you are working as a young child, the only thing you can do, I guess, is to see it as your version of play.
yeah. I would love to have seen the faces of when they all fell off the horse in a big heap of bodies and animals. And I mean, did
I
they
know it
all
plays
like,
out like a movie.
did they laugh? Did they like, oh man, I'm broken? What happened there? But anyhow,
I loved his answer for what is going unexpectedly well for you right now.
yeah, that brings me joy to my heart just to know that things are going well for Carl. He's also he alluded to it at the beginning, and he stayed away from the downs, the hards, because part of her journey, especially somebody that is closer to 100 than 50, has experienced both, and he is a light of pure positivity, and that's Carl.
He's definitely a light of positive energy. I just was mesmerized by his storytelling and the sentiments that he brought onto the podcast, particularly the simple joy of the wind in the sails, and then
Mm,
his ending message of we're all people and we're all the same and we all want just to live peacefully.
yeah,
Loved both of those things. I just love the things that he brought onto the podcast today. So thank you again, Carl.
yeah. Thanks, Carl. I think that's about another episode of Porch Swing People.
Porch Swing People, out.
Porch Swing People is recorded and produced by Lex and Gibby. Opening music was written and produced by Michael Gibson. Porch Swing People is a podcast featuring everyday people. If interested in being a guest, email us at porchswingpeeps@gmail.com.